Cyberpunk 2077 and Fallout 76 were probably one of the worst releases we've seen in the last decade. Now, I don't know about anything else. I mean, more recently, I've become a lot more vocal and a lot more cynical about video games and their releases, considering, well, now that I'm an adult, I'm spending my own money on them. But now we can add Battlefield 2042 to that list, and that pains me to say. I've done everything in my power to love this game as much as I can, and unfortunately I've come out on the other side extremely angry. I'm very upset about how they handled this launch. I'm very upset about how they've handled things. It's extremely unfortunate. Now, the one thing is, they at least have Battlefield Communications Twitter that has been telling people about what they've realized has been the problem, and so on and so forth, and at least, being semi-transparent about the entire thing. Regardless of them being transparent about the issues that are happening, the fact that there were issues to begin with on launch is atrocious. It's unforgivable, frankly. We're starting to see this trend in a lot of AAA developers where they're releasing a game that's completely and utterly broken, promising something completely different, and then just begging us to deal with it. It's becoming so common, in fact, that I don't think a game released this year hasn't had any issues. Now, I would expect things like balancing issues. That's usually a common thing, which is usually fixed within a few weeks. That's not something that I would have a deal with. But the fact that hit registration doesn't work, the fact that there's weapon bloom on everything that's fucked, the fact that there are air vehicles that are so fucking heavily armored that, that was an oversight. It's these things that collectively add together make an extremely unfun game. And that's the biggest problem, is that they're trying to be creating something that's fun. So I want to put it into an analogy, okay? Because there are a lot of people that have told me that, well, why don't you just suck it up? Why'd you buy it? They spent far more money on it. All right, understandable. Frankly, I don't give a fuck how much money they spent on developing that game. That's their prerogative. They have thousands of fucking employees with thousands of developers that are working on this at one point in time. That's not my problem. You're selling it for your set price. I'm buying it for your set price. I expect to be given a finished product. That's why Steam Early Access exists. It's a cheaper price. You understand that it's not finished yet. It's in beta or whatever. And you're paying that beta price to test the game, knowing full well that it could be broken and full of bugs and glitches. When you're buying from a AAA developer as a full release, you should have a finished product in hand. To the point where I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing lawsuits collectively from consumers going after video game developers. We saw it with Cyberpunk 2077. I'm not sure what happened with it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like it with Battlefield 2042 as well. So imagine you go into a car dealership because you've seen these amazing commercials about this one vehicle that has all the features you want. It's got you extremely excited. You've been thinking about it for a little while. You're extremely hyped about it. And you walk in, and you talk to the salesperson, and you do everything you need to do. You buy the car. And then when you get the car, you realize that none of the features fucking work. Nothing works. And that's extremely frustrating. Now, in a real life situation, what you would do is you would refund it, right? You would bring the car back and be like, look, this is not at all what I wanted. I want a refund for this. This is fucked. This is not at all that was promised. And that would work in the physical consumer world. In the digital consumer world, though, oh no, not at all. Not even the likes of GameStop. If you were one to buy a physical copy of this, you cannot return the game at all, period. You don't even get a time limit. You just can't return it. A lot of the time you get trade credit back, and that is a gigantic pain in the ass. And we saw issues with that with the likes of Fallout 76. I believe even Cyberpunk 2077 as well. Now, the biggest problem that I'm seeing currently is the fact that on Steam, which is where I received the game, you get 2 hours. 2 hours or 2 weeks. That's it. That's how long you have to refund. If you go over that 2 hour mark, good fucking luck. It's not happening. So after 2 hours, which is not enough to truly experience all of the bullshit within Battlefield, you can't get a refund at all. So it's a massive problem within Steam itself and other digital platforms as well. But we need to have more than 2 hours. I don't know what the sweet spot is, but we need more time in order to analyze what we're playing, to be able to experience enough of it to get a general idea of how many bugs and glitches are in it. And a lot of the time, 2 hours is not enough. I mean, Cyberpunk 2077, for me anyway, on the PC, when I got it, by the time I was about 4 hours in, that's when I started noticing glitches and bugs. And then from there on, it was just horrendous. But with games like Battlefield 2042 giving me consistent persistence errors the moment it was released, that might be something to do with my hardware, something that I've screwed with that maybe I need to deal with. The game could be causing a conflict with something that I might need to figure out that may not be exactly the game's fault. And all of these things take time. So it eventually builds up to being 2 hours, and then you're stuck there forever. And that's extremely irritating and something I want to see change. We need the video game industry to change. It is very new in comparison to other industries, and I don't think we have it fleshed out yet, especially in the digital age. We're seeing a lot of issues like this, and it's becoming a massive problem. Now, I believe that, like other industries, game developers and publishers need to be held accountable for products that are released that are not correct. They're not done correctly. They're fucked. Such as these video games that we've been seeing as of recently, more specifically Battlefield 2042. Because the whole thing is that many people are excited for these games. And they're watching these commercials and these trailers for these games, and they're getting worked up about how awesome it's going to be. And then when it's released, it becomes false advertising. And I don't believe that the video game industry falls underneath the same umbrella that other commercials fall under, nor other industries. That false advertising would land you a charge, would actually get you in trouble for things. Instead, it's almost like video game developers and distributors and publishers are all like rich children that are spoiled. They can get away with whatever the hell they want and just say, sorry, and everything just fixes itself, apparently. Because I haven't heard much of what happened with Cyberpunk, haven't heard much with what happened with Fallout 76, but I doubt I'll hear anything about 2042. Besides the normal, we figured out what was wrong and we're gonna fix it. I don't care about that. It is time for developers to take responsibility for games being so fucked because they're either skipping steps or they're pushing things far too quickly. But it needs to stop. I would rather wait years for a good finished product than deal with the bullshit that they're handing us that is unfinished, that people are spending their hard-earned cash for. And they're just getting away with it. It's atrocious behavior. Now, unfortunately, over the last few years and some of the releases that have been given to us, a list has been created that unfortunately have a lot of the same publishers and developers on it. Now, I didn't want to do this. None of us did. But unfortunately, DICE, you've made that list. And it sucks to have to put you there. I loved you for so long. I trusted you. You did okay. You might have attempted to innovate and you fucked up a little bit with 5, but we'd forgive you for that one. You at least tried. But giving us as much hype for 2042 and letting us down as hard as you did is just unforgivable. So unfortunately, DICE, do better next time.